Welcome to Emotions and Eating with Nicola Beer. Nicola controlled her feelings using food for 25 years, so she knows how draining it is to be constantly thinking about or acting out with food. Thankfully, having made an amazing breakthrough in her recovery, her mission became about helping others escape the unsatisfying cycle of frustration and self-medication with food. Nicola is determined to help you find your inner strength so you can be healthy, gain confidence, feel great, and be at peace with yourself and food.
Hi and welcome, this is Nicola Beer and I'm really excited to talk to you today about the different types of hunger. When we think of hunger, we always tend to think that it's about nourishing our bodies so that they may continue to flourish. But what we don't realise is that it's about much more than just satisfying an instinctual urge within us. What is hunger? Simply, it is our body's signal to us that we need to consume something in order for us to stay nourished and very basically alive. Hunger is a basic human need that tends to be satisfied in order to ensure our survival. It is also defined as being what happens to us when our bodies require energy. This happens because our brain reads changes in hormone levels, in nutrients, in the bloodstream. And yet in our modern diets, often some of the foods that we're consuming is interfering with the natural brain signals for hunger. Also, what we may not realise is that we can have different reactions to this feeling of hunger. And this is what can cause us to overeat or even consume the wrong foods. If a hunger pang is really strong, someone may overeat because they feel scared of having that kind of hunger pang. This is why it's really important to understand the different types of hunger that exist as well to confuse us from real hunger. So I'm going to mention today about real hunger and then another 9 different types of hunger. And actually there are so many, but for the case of this episode we'll just stick to some of the main ones. And it's really important to understand the different types of hunger if we want to be able to nourish our bodies than overload our bodies. So the first is real hunger. And this is the most important kind of hunger. This is the hunger that we want to be paying attention to. This is survival hunger. We feel this type of hunger when our bodies are in need of nourishment and our blood sugar levels have significantly dropped. And this is signaled by things like feeling dizzy or shaking or having a headache or even feeling your stomach rumble repeatedly. The danger in this hunger is letting it get to the point of the symptoms I've just outlined. Because usually when it reaches this stage, you will likely just grab whatever you can to get your hands on, which is often not the greatest thing because it can lead you to eat more than what your body actually requires or the wrong thing for perhaps what your body really needs. And we overcompensate all the time. And then there is TV or screen hunger. You know the kind. You settled in to watch your favourite shows for the night and there is something missing. Snacks. Somehow it feels like the snacks taste better when you're watching, or rather that the show seems better because you've got something tasty to nibble. But the issue that arises from this kind of hunger is that we generally consume more when we're distracted from the eating action. So when you sit down to watch your show and the next thing you know the packet is empty, then now you know why. In fact, studies show that people eat on average 30% more when watching TV than sat eating without the TV on. These days, it is also people with the phone, eating with the phone, reading, scrolling, YouTubing, social media distracts people. Which is why in my 3-part program to help people change their eating habits for life, I focus on the emotional, mental and physical aspects of eating. In the physical, I guide my clients through mindful eating exercise and plan, so they appreciate the food, enjoy it and don't overeat. As when we're on the phones or watching TV whilst eating, we will generally eat faster than we would normally. Remember going to watch a movie at the cinema and almost finishing a large chunk of your popcorn while the trailers were still playing? Sometimes I've even finished the popcorn and the movie hasn't even began. I've also had people turn down the movies because they can't watch a movie without popcorn or chocolate or sweets. Mindfulness is a really powerful tool here. And if you'd like to know more about my eating programs where I cover mindful eating, then do visit my website nicolabeer.com, click on the eating tab, and then it's got all about my audio programs, my free gift, and lots of other information there for you. The next type of hunger is eye hunger, and this refers to the visual appeal of food that grabs your attention. Perhaps you're walking through the supermarket and spot a brightly coloured rainbow cake, and you think, wow. Or you're walking past a restaurant that serves giant pizza slices and you catch a glimpse of one of those with all the toppings that you love. What tends to happen here, though, is that our eyes trick our stomach into cooperating, even if we're not feeling physically hungry. Perhaps you just ate a healthy salad and are satisfied, and then you see a delicious looking red velvet slice staring at you. It looks good enough, and we convince ourselves we need to taste it, whether we're hungry or not. And that's why menus with pictures of food get us to often eat so much more than we would if we didn't see the food. Even if we're not hungry, we'll tend to overeat or eat the wrong kind of foods because they look so appealing. It's often why when we feel full at a dinner party and stop eating our meal because we're full, 10 minutes later we're eating dessert when the cake comes out because it just looks delicious and our eyes are hungry and we feel compelled to have it. Then there is sound hunger. Hearing a sizzle on a grill or the frying of something is enough to ignite our mind's interest in an item of food, even if we're full. A lady Helen I worked with started noticing this with her children. The sound of them opening a box of cereals and pouring them into a bowl and sloshing around with the milk and the spoon clinking made her crave cereal. She also noticed that she always wanted crisps when she heard crisp packets being popped open and crunched on. Just like with eye hunger, sometimes our ears too can trick our stomach into playing along. If you find yourself distracted by the sound of foods being cooked or opened, play some music or a tune into your body and ask, are you really hungry? Or are you triggered by the sound of food? Start paying attention to the sounds of foods and see if that influences you. I'd love to hear from you. It's a really interesting exercise just to hear if that is true for you. And if you're not in a good place right now with your eating, sometimes we need to get out of the space of other people eating until we're feeling stronger in ourselves. Many who get my Healthy Eating audio set remove the sounds of hunger by using the self-love and healthy eating meditation, because these can often help when feeling triggered, when the craving is really, really strong, just taking themselves away to beat that craving. Or listening to the material in the audio programs while preparing food, because it's really easy to overeat when something really sounds appetizing in its preparation. And then there's boredom hunger. You've got nothing to do and you find yourself staring at the fridge thinking, what taste can satisfy your hunger? Except you're not even hungry, but your mind is looking for something to occupy itself with. Because we're so used to having to fill our time doing something, we can easily substitute eating for something else, probably much more constructive and supportive in your life path. To prepare something, when we're bored, we tend to go for something that's quick and easy to satisfy the need and the feeling of having to do something. So it may be you just quickly grab something that you wouldn't normally grab if you weren't bored. In this case, it's essential to learn how to occupy ourselves with things other than food, to focus on things other than food. Weight loss programs and diets and that get you focused on eating and foods often make people a lot worse. Refocusing the mind onto things that are important to you is key. And this is the mental part of the eating coaching program I run. We need to focus on filling up our times with activities that are going to lift us up and not dull us down. I have many ideas for this. You need to pick the right one for you. Sometimes picking up a book, organising something in the home, calling friends, going for a walk. These are all great ideas. However, it's got to be right for you. This is an individual thing. And if you really can't find anything, avoid filling your house with unhealthy snacks. Now, I know it can be really difficult if you have children. You want them to be children. You want them to have all the foods that you had as a child, perhaps. So I recommend only buy enough for them in small quantities. Don't buy lots of quantities if this is going to be a trigger for you. Then there's smell hunger. This is another type of hunger from the senses. And smell hunger is a really strong sense. It's probably one of the strongest types of hunger. Smell hunger is likely the next best thing to actually eating, because you're smelling the item and can imagine how it tastes, and this can really make you want to eat, especially if you already know what it tastes like. And this can be especially dangerous when going to the stores, grocery shopping, because the stores tend to have that freshly baked bread smell when you walk in. They also often sell cooked food, and they spray that around sometimes, like they might cook a pizza or fried chicken or all kinds of different foods to really make you hungry and buy a lot of foods that you may not normally go for if you weren't hungry when you went. And even if you were full, these smells can really capture us. So it's important, if you don't want to over shop, to have a list and really stick to your list. And I'm curious to know, do you smell food as you shop? When you purchase things, do you smell them? When you cook for yourself, do you smell food? Then there is hangry hunger. Maybe you've heard of this kind of hunger. The word hangry hunger is a combination of two words, angry and hungry, and basically means that when you're feeling hungry and your blood sugar dips, your body may react in a more drastic way, including becoming angry, or rather angry, hangry. The problem with this hunger is that it can have an effect on our interpersonal relationships, because we tend to get snappy or just downright mean, and this can lead to fights, arguments, and unnecessary tension in the places of work. Ever been on a diet and become incredibly moody, snappy, and irritable because you're starving yourself? I used to be so cranky when I dieted, as I did it in all the wrong ways. Don't allow yourself to get to this point, and instead keep healthy snacks with you instead of feeling hangry and reaching for sugary, pick-me-up snacks. It also works the other way round too. Some people, when they get angry, overeat to push the anger down. They grab potato chips, crispy chicken, anything crunchy, and munch through the anger. And in my experience, helping people stop emotional eating, we need to actually look at and address the anger, and also ways to deal with food cravings if you're going through a kind of detox. Because sometimes you may feel irritable if you are actually detoxing from an addictive food. When I went through detoxing myself of sugar and sugar-free, because I was also addicted to sugar-free, I was so irritable. I literally felt like I could punch people in the face, and that is so not me. Obviously, I didn't punch anyone in the face, but I went shopping, and little things were irritating me, and that's because my body was craving sugar. It had been living on so much sugar and starch that when I took that out of my diet, my body was not knowing what to do. So sometimes it is a bit unavoidable if you are going through a detox phase. So just be really patient with yourself. I isolated myself, and this really helped me because I thought people don't want to be with me for these 3 days. And it comes in waves. So the craving is really there, and then your body gets used to it, and the craving comes up. And so it's just about helping yourself if you're going through a detox. The next is time hunger. Have you noticed that when it reaches a certain time of day that your body automatically feels like it needs nourishment? For a lot of people, this is 3 o'clock in the afternoon. 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they need a sugar pick-me-up. Or lunchtime, they need something. Or before bed, they need something. And they may feel this is real hunger. And actually, it's not. Almost like clockwork, our body, similar to when we sleep, reacts and responds to the patterns that we give it. So if we've been giving our body a pattern of eating all the time, then it's going to be hungry all the time. If we've been giving our body a pattern of eating at 12, 6, and maybe 9 in the morning, then it will follow that pattern. And whether this is something like at work when you need to have a cup of tea and a biscuit at a certain time, or you need to have a snack at a certain time, all of